Part 120. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1191. Feng Qingxiu works very hard, which is obvious to all. She often says that she will not give up work for the sake of her family. Work is her goal in life. Now she has revealed that she intends to retire from the army in her chat, which shows that her children have a high status in her mind. Hi. Just because it is clear, everyone is more sympathetic. No more, I have to go to Qingxiu's house. There are several children at home. Xiaoun definitely can't take care of them alone. Fang Ning left in a hurry, and Yang Fenying followed. Zhuang is critically ill, and Feng Qingxiu must not be able to care about the children at home at this moment. Feng Qingyun even asked for leave to go home as soon as she heard that her nephew was sick. No one in the art team disagreed. Entering the family compound, I met Bai Shui. Bai Shui was walking around in circles. When he saw Yang Fenying and Fang Ning, he hurriedly asked, "How is little Zhuang?" I heard that Zhuang was admitted to the hospital early yesterday morning. It has been almost 2 days now. Has his condition improved? I've been coughing for the past 2 days and haven't dared to go out. I went to Qingxiu's house. Xiaoun and sister Yang took care of the children. They were all anxious and didn't dare to take Dun Xiong to the hospital. Yang Fenying and Fang Ning shook their heads and whispered, "The situation is not good." "What?" Bai Shui was shocked, and then said sadly, "Xiao Zhuang is Qingxiu's life. If anything happens to him, half of Qingxiu's life will be gone." Yes, everyone knows that Xiao Zhuang is Feng Qingxiu's fate. Fang Ning and Yang Fenying sighed, "Let's go to Qingxiu's house to have a look. Qingxiu doesn't care about her family, so we can't just ignore her." "I am coming too." The three of them had just walked for a few minutes when they heard a noise in front of them. "What's wrong? What happened?" Bai Shui grabbed a child walking from the front. As soon as the child saw Bai Shui and the others, his eyes lit up, and he pulled Bai Shui back and said, "Come on, hurry up, Zibao and his aunt are fighting with Director Jin's daughter-in-law." Yang Fenying and Fang Ning lost their voices and said, "What?" The two of them ran quickly, leaving Bai Shui behind, who didn't dare to run casually. Wait for me," Bai Shui ran to the scene where the child said, panting, and was dumbfounded. Lu Zayadai was being beaten on the ground by the young Feng Qingyun, who slapped her face one after another. Bai Shui and others could hear the slaps outside the crowd, and they could also hear the slaps mixed with Feng Qingxiu. Cursing, "I'll let you curse Zhuang, I'll let you curse Zhuang, let's see if I can't beat you to death. I can't tear your stinky mouth apart." "What's going on?" Bai Shui asked the family members of the soldiers who were watching. The family member whispered, "Isn't the youngest son of the army chief's family sick and hospitalized? Many family members who are accompanying the army are discussing buying some nutritional supplements to visit him. Lu Zayadai came over and said that they have so many sons, and it would be okay if 1 or 2 of them died." "What? So vicious? Damn it." After hearing the 2 words blurted out by Bai Shui, the family member continued, "Sister-in-law Qingxiu's little sister and Mr. Zhao's son took Zibao and Fubao out to play for a while and were about to go back. They happened to hear Lu Zayadai's words. Why don't they just fight? Are you up? You should be beaten. How could anyone curse someone else's child like that?" Bai Shui turned around and saw Zhao Xiaoun holding Fu Bao in one hand and holding 11 Bao in the other. Zibao struggled to help his aunt. "Let me go, I'm going to beat up the bad guys." He made a kick with his feet like Lu Zayadai. Fu Bao rubbed his eyes and cried, Brother, my brother is good, my brother will not die. Beat the bad guys, brother, beat the bad guys." He kept urging Zhao Xiaoun to come forward. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1192. Zhao Xiaoun was a little confused. Why are children fighting? It would be great if your aunt was there to help. Yang Fengying glanced at him and stepped forward to take Fu Bao over. Because Feng Qingyun had the upper hand, neither she nor Fang Ning stepped forward to start a fight. People around her probably thought so. Compared with Feng Qingxiu's conduct, Lu Zayadai was really far behind. What's more, she deserved to be beaten to death for uttering curse words at a moment when others were anxious. Feng Qingyun has not suffered hardship since she was 5 years old. Most of the nutritional supplements at home went into the stomachs of children like her. After joining the army, she participated in training every day. Her figure became taller and her physical strength also improved a lot. She carried props for performances. She can run around the training ground without losing breath. How can Lu Zayadai compare with her? He was beaten without the ability to fight back. You dare to hit me? If you hit me, just wait and be punished. The army has strict management, and Lu Zayadai knows it better than anyone. I'll fight to be punished, and I'll beat those who deserve it. Feng Qingyun spat in her face, pointed at her nose and said, if my family Zhuang is cursed by you and is in some way bad, just wait for me to deal with it. You beat your parents to the point where they don't recognize you. You are such a vicious woman, you deserve to never have a son in your life. This sentence made Lu Zayadai mad even more than when she hit Lu Zayadai, and she suddenly stepped on Lu Zayadai's painful foot. The child she and Feng Qingxiu had was born a few days later than Feng Qingxiu, on January 3 this year, with only 5 or 6 days in between. However, Feng Qingxiu gave birth to triplets, which attracted everyone's envy, but she only gave birth to a fair and fat daughter named Jin Lady, who is now taken care of by Jin Zayadai. Therefore, Lu Zayadai reached out and pushed Feng Qingyun. You dare to say that I don't have a son? You dare to say that I can't give birth to a son? Little bitch, let's see if I don't beat you to death. Zibao broke away from Zhao Xiaoun's hand, rushed over and kicked her. You are allowed to call me aunt. I am allowed to call you my brother. Bad guy. Big bad guy. Zibao will be 6 years old in 2 or 3 months. He usually eats well and is naturally stronger than the average child, so he will be kicked. Lu Zayadai's arm was so painful that she still had the strength to push Feng Qingyun. His swollen face was red and purple, looking like a pig's head, and his face was covered with nosebleeds. Feng Qingyun knew how to give up when things were good, mainly because she didn't want people to have a bad impression of her nephew. She snorted and stood up to hold Zibao's hand, letting go of Lu Zayadai, who was rolling and crawling. Be careful. Behind, seeing that Lu Zayadai was free, he became jealous and attacked her from behind Feng Qingyun. He raised his fist and rushed towards Feng Qingyun. Bai Shui immediately shouted to remind Feng Qingyun. Feng Qingyun let go of Zibao's hand, and without even looking behind her, she kicked Lu Zayadai to the ground with a roundhouse kick. Clean. Clean. Be quick and accurate. Zhao Xiaoun's mouth immediately opened wide, big enough to stuff a goose egg, and he couldn't help but hide away from Yang Fengying. Feng Qingyun, who was usually gentle to his nephew, was actually an overlord flower. Looking at Lu Zayadai who couldn't get up, Feng Qingyun raised her chin. When she was a child, her sister taught her the skills she needs to keep practicing to deal with stinky gangsters. It's so useful. No wonder my sister practices often. You'd better not appear in front of me, otherwise I'll beat you every time I see you. If someone tells me that you are cursing my nephews behind their backs, I can't see you, but I can still rush to your house and beat you. If you don't believe me, just wait and see. Upon hearing this, some family members who had been with the army for a long time realized that Feng Qingyun's tone and behavior were almost exactly the same as Feng Qingxiu's. They were worthy of being sisters. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1193. Fang Ning took a step forward and scolded in a deep voice, Xiaoun, what are you doing here? You have nothing to do, right? Have you forgotten the rules of the army? Why don't you go back and write a review for me? It was clearly a rebuke, but it was actually a shield. Feng Qingyun understood very well in her heart and immediately made a confession, I understand, comrade captain. After returning to the Lu family, Feng Qingyun immediately asked, teachers, how is Chuang? She had to take care of Zibao and Fuebao, reduce the burden on Tianling and Yang's mother, and there was no way to go to the hospital to find out what was going on. In fact, she could go when Zibao and Fuebao were sleeping, but she was afraid of hearing bad news. Just like now, the question came out of my mouth, but I didn't dare to hear the answer. Fang Ning and Yang Fengying shook their heads slowly, the doctor is still discussing how to treat it. Hearing these words, Feng Qingyun's heart fell to the bottom of the valley. Night came soon, and only Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu were guarding Zhuang in the ward. In the past 2 days, he had developed symptoms such as fever, cough, difficulty breathing, and asthma. Poor Zhuang, the doctor was completely helpless. Ah Zhang. Feng Qingxiu grabbed his hand, and her nails dug deeply into Lu Jiang's skin, but Lu Jiang didn't feel any pain and hugged her with his backhand, don't cry, we Zhuang will definitely do it, everything is fine. Didn't Master Shan say that we are destined to have 4 sons and 1 daughter, and Zhuang is one of them? How could he be absent from our lives? Feng Qingxiu burst into tears and gritted her teeth, for the first time, I hate the backwardness of medicine in the era I live in. Qingxiu, why doesn't Lu Jiang hate the lack of medical treatment? Does he really want to watch Zhuang leave them? No, we can't. Jiang, I want to give Zhuang medicine. Let's give him medicine ourselves. Infusion. You mean, medicine in space? Feng Qingxiu sniffed and said in a deep voice, at the beginning, I prepared a lot of commonly used medicines. Except for the medicine for bruises that are almost the same for you, because I considered that I might get married and have children in the future, I also prepared all the medicines for children. We have them all, even the equipment for infusion, but the quantity is not large and it is not easy to buy. It takes a lot of people to take care of the space. Zhuang is a lung infection, which is inflammation. There are medicines in the space that are anti-inflammatory, antiviral, and anti-asthmatic, all of them are symptomatic. Lu Jiang gritted his teeth, okay, I believe in your medical skills and the medicine you prepared. During the infusion process for Zhuang, don't let anyone approach the ward, and don't let anyone see the things and medicines we take out. Feng Qingxiu made a prompt decision and moved incredibly fast, looking for medicines, dispensing medicines, and preparing injection tools. Zhuang's skin is very tender and thin, and the blood vessels are very thin. The ones on the wrists cannot be used, and the ones on the feet. It was a cold night, and Lu Jiang and Feng Qingxiu did not dare to unswaddle him for fear of freezing him, so Feng Qingxiu looked for a place for infusion on his head. When the light bulb in the ward was on, Lu Jiang gave her a flashlight. Light up the sky above Zhuang's head. After dripping in, Feng Qingxiu took Zhuang into her arms and drove Lu Jiang out to guard the door. She thought very carefully, and soon doctors and nurses came to watch the night. When she saw Lu Jiang squatting outside the door with his head in his hands, his sympathy increased. Commander of the army, let us go in and see the child. All the doctors in the pediatric department were helpless about Zhuang's condition. They came to do night rounds just to give themselves some psychological comfort. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1194. Lu Jiang raised his head, his face was full of exhaustion and his eyes were bloodshot. Only he would look this embarrassed on the battlefield. "No need," Lu Zhang said in a hoarse voice, "let the children and their mothers be alone for a while. Don't go in and disturb them. Zhuang, I know you have tried your best." Dr. Zhang felt sour, and the little nurse who followed him shed tears. It's so pitiful. There has never been a time when they hated their powerlessness as much as they did today. Commander of the army. Dr. Zhang bent down and patted his shoulder. "Don't forget, you and your sister-in-law, there are 4 children at home waiting for you to take care of them." After being a doctor for so many years, he has become accustomed to seeing children die young. In which year and month does he not witness the death of several children with his own eyes? The older ones were 6 or 7 years old, and the younger ones were just born. A small wind chill could kill them. Some even died in his arms. As time passed and the number of times increased, even he himself became numb. After Dr. Zhang and the nurse left, Guo Xiuying and Wang Sanbao arrived hand in hand. After all, they were worried and wanted to see Zhuang's condition and continue to think of a way to watch him leave. They really couldn't do it. After all, they delivered the children they often took care of with their own hands. "King Xiu is inside." Lu Zhang stood up. "She is thinking of a way. My sister-in-law and eldest sister should not go in and disturb her, okay?" After hearing this, Guo Xiuying and Wang Sanbao immediately stopped and sighed deeply. Feng Qingxiu could hear clearly inside. She looked down at her infant son who was breathing weakly, and big tears rolled down her cheeks. Zhuang, you must be strong. Mom is with you, Dad is protecting you outside, and we will defeat the disease together. Zhuang, don't live up to your name. The name given to you by the founding leader of the country, at home. The nickname given to you by the old people, you have to be strong, you are strong, you have to be strong. In response to her, there were only weak cries, cries that came out when she felt uncomfortable. No one came to disturb him, so Lu Zhang came in and locked the door. "King Xiu, I'll hold Zhuang while you rest for a while." Feng Qingxiu raised her head and looked at the injection liquid on it. "This pack is almost finished. Just keep an eye on it. When it's done, you can immediately replace it with another pack. Whether Zhuang can be safe or not is all our hope." There had never been a day that felt like a year for them. The injection entered Zhuang's body drop by drop, and the hour hand on the watch moved second by second. By the time both bottles of injection were finished, it was already past 2 o'clock in the morning. After all the things used for infusion were stored in the space, Feng Qingxiu hugged her little son tightly, close to his flesh. Early in the morning, Guo Xiuying and others saw this look when they came in. "Qingxiu, you guys." Feng Qingxiu directly planned Wang Sanbao's words, "Sister, come and see if Zhuang is feeling better." "Huh?" Wang Sanbao, Guo Xiuying, Dr. Zhang and others thought that Feng Qingxiu was crazy. After all, Zhuang's vital signs yesterday were really minimal, but they had to get closer. At this sight, everyone was stunned. Zhuang was actually still alive, with his eyes open, and he was humming. Even though his voice was low, they didn't hear it after they came in. But when they got closer, they heard it. It was no different from the volume of a mosquito's hum. In the 1960s and 1970s, the infant mortality rate was definitely higher than official statistics, because many babies were not registered. According to several of my aunts, in the 1970s, several of my cousins died after birth, and some were affected by wind. Some were caused by lung infections, hundreds of deaths, and whooping cough, not to mention my mother's generation. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1195. Wang Sanbao immediately reached out and touched Zhuang's forehead. Although it was still a little hot, the fever was lower than yesterday. Zhuang's fever is going down. He is getting better. He is getting better. Is it better? Guo Xiuying hurried forward. After the examination, her eyes lit up. She was obviously not as hot as yesterday. What a miracle! It's a miracle! After hearing what they said, Dr. Zhang stepped forward without any hesitation and looked at Feng Qingxiu with bright eyes. How did you take care of him last night? Zhuang's condition is indeed better than yesterday. Feng Qingxiu said without hesitation, feed him water and cool him down. I have been feeding him water and cooling him down with wine. Yes, we were doing it all last night. Lu Zhang said the same thing next to him. The former was something done yesterday, and everyone saw it. Regarding the latter, Feng Qingxiu deliberately let him spill some wine in the room, creating the illusion that the room was full of alcohol, which meant that she used wine to perform physical tests on Zhuang. Cool down. When a child has a fever, it is a traditional method to rub the heart, mouth, and armpits with wine. Continue, drink more water, and try to lower the fever. Dr. Zhang made a prompt decision, and then said, about medicines, antipyretics and anti-inflammatory drugs are all medicines used by adults. Even if the dosage is reduced, it will not affect the health of the patient. There are adverse effects on the child. I didn't use it yesterday because Zhuang's condition is no longer useful. The medicine used by Sister Sanbao and sister-in-law Xiuying is very suitable. Today I have to ask you what this medicine should be. No need. Qingxiu, you are a medical student, you should know what tiger wolf medicine is. Feng Qingxiu said without hesitation, no need. No, Guo Xiuying was stunned. Qingxiu, are you crazy? Without medicine, are you going to let Zhuang suffer like this? After last night, who can guarantee that today will be safe without medicine? Sister-in-law, I understand what you mean. Yesterday's treatment was very good, otherwise Zhuang would not have gotten better. For pulmonary infection, the main things are to reduce inflammation, cough, asthma, and fever. Of course, the most important thing is inflammation. Once the inflammation disappears, all aspects will improve, but Zhuang is a baby. If there is no suitable medicine in the space, then she will fight with Lu Zhang and use the medicine of tiger and wolf. Now it is available in the space, and it is very effective when Zhuang uses it. Many of the anti-inflammatory drugs in this era are not up to standard in her opinion, and there are also injection tools. The needles can be easily sterilized and then inserted into the flesh. Although she knows that this is the case in this situation, she does not dare to use it on Zhuang. Go on an adventure. The little medicine given to Zhuang yesterday was all through injections. She was already very frightened, and it had no effect at all. Gradually improving without continuing to take medication would definitely arouse suspicion, and she had to prevent this from happening. Feng Qingxiu thought for a while, you can use the medicine. After you prescribe the medicine, bring it over and I will give Zhuang an injection myself. I will take care of my son. Zhuang did get better under her careful care, and she was also a doctor. Although it was a bit unruly, everyone understood her mother's feelings and agreed to her unreasonable request. During the day, everyone held consultations to discuss how to treat Zhuang and other children with pediatric diseases. At night, Feng Qingxiu and Lu Zhang secretly gave Zhuang an infusion. All the medicines prescribed by the hospital were taken away by Feng Qingxiu and were not given to Zhuang. As Dr. Zhang said, they were originally anti-inflammatory drugs for adults. The dose was reduced and it was really not suitable for children. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1196. After about 5 days, several doctors surrounding Zhuang happily announced that Zhuang was out of danger. It's okay, It's okay, Zhuang is getting better. Lu Jiang, who had a stubble on his face, gently stroked his wife's back. Is everything really okay? Feng Qingxiu grabbed Lu Jiang's sleeve. Lu Jiang nodded heavily. Didn't you hear just now? Dr. Zhang said that Zhuang is fine for the time being. Dr. Zhang and Guo Xiuying said at the same time, yes, he has stabilized and is okay for the time being. You can tell by listening to his breathing and crying. He is much better than when he was sent to the hospital. You two take good care of the child. What's the problem? Call us immediately. Wang Sanbao rubbed his eyes after staying up for several days and nights. Thank God. She finally took back the child's life from the hands of the Lord of Hell. This child was declared dead from the beginning. She encountered this situation many times in her life, but few children had such a fate as Zhuang. Big. The fate is great, this is the unanimous thought of all the doctors and nurses present. Thank you, thank you, thank you all for your hard work. Feng Qingxiu didn't know what to say except thank you. Although Zhuang is out of danger, we still have to take good care of him. We can't take him out of the hospital for the time being, Dr. Zhang said to them, and then sighed, there are sick children in other wards. Let's go there first. There are a few. 2 children are in the same situation as Zhuang. One of them has better health than Zhuang. He has already taken medicine and I don't know if he can survive. Not everyone is lucky enough to be strong, but Feng Qingxiu secretly used medicine to save his life. Feng Qingxiu rushed Lu Jiang home to see how the other 4 children were doing, while she stayed in the ward to take care of Zhuang. She was feeding Zhuang when she suddenly heard heartbreaking cries from the next ward. Dr. Zhang, look quickly, come and save my grandson. Didn't you take medicine? Didn't you take medicine? Why is the child out of breath? Why? Feng Qingxiu's reaction was to hold Zhuang tightly in her arms, with cold sweat breaking out all over her body. In the evening, the little nurse came to check the ward and told Feng Qingxiu, the child was sent to the pediatric department from home just after he was born. He also had a lung infection and was choked in the womb. He had this symptom when he was born and it was only 2 days old. Is this the child that Dr. Zhang mentioned? Feng Qingxiu asked. Ah, the little nurse recalled what Dr. Zhang said today, shook her head and said, no, it's another one. His mother gave birth to the child at home, and her mother-in-law delivered her. She found something was wrong with the child before sending it to the hospital. The child was not even breathing at first. Well, it was Sister Sanbao who sucked out the phlegm. The condition of the child that Dr. Zhang mentioned during the day was not very optimistic. He was only a few months old. Feng Qingxiu hugged Zhuang's arms tightly. You work in pediatrics, do you often face this kind of situation? The little nurse sighed, we are used to facing life and death. Before there were no family members to join the army, there was no pediatrician here. Later, when there were more children, there was a pediatrician. That's when I was assigned to the pediatrician. My sister-in-law doesn't usually go to the pediatrician. So I don't know that children are more difficult to take medicine than adults, they are too delicate, and their mortality rate is higher. The first time she was on duty, she faced a baby that had died just half a day after birth. It was still a boy. It was caused by wind and was brought from the obstetrics and gynecology department without resuscitation. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1197. The hospital is such a magical place, where people live and die. The former makes the whole family happy, while the latter makes the whole family sad. Zhuang survived, but many of the parents whose children died consider Zhuang a thorn in their side. Taking advantage of the rising temperature at noon, Feng Qingxiu changed Zhuang's diaper and a clean thin cotton padded jacket, then swaddled him again, and also stuffed the jade gourd into the swaddling clothes. The little man slept soundly. As soon as they finished packing, Lu Jiang came with Zibao and Fuebao. Mom, Mom, you scared me, Fu Bao acted coquettishly when he arrived. Zibao puffed up his face, suddenly flashed his big eyes, looked at his brother first, then at his mother, and said unhappily, Mom doesn't look good. Feng Qingxiu touched her face. After staying up day and night for so many days, she didn't even bother to wash her face or brush her teeth. Faced with her youngest son's condition, she didn't even have the heart to eat or drink. It's strange that her face looks good. Now he had no time, no energy, and didn't dare to look in the mirror. All eyes wanted to be on Zhuang. Fu Bao glared at his brother, Mom is very beautiful, but my brother is talking nonsense. I'm not talking nonsense, Zibao walked over and grabbed Feng Qingxiu's clothes, Mom, my brother is fine, right? Yes, my brother is fine. He will go home and play with Zibao Fuebao soon. Feng Qingxiu was confident, with a look of determination on her haggard face, so, when my parents are not at home, Zibao Fuebao Bao must be good and take good care of his sister and brother for his parents, and reward him when his mother comes home, okay. Okay. I'm very good, I'm Hao Zibao said loudly. The sound was so loud that Zhuang woke up instantly and let out a delicate cry. Lu Jiang glared at his eldest son and held his younger son in his arms, is Zhuang behaving well now? Fortunately, he is very good. He slept after feeding, and he didn't even wake up when I changed his diaper. After Feng Qingxiu finished answering, she asked, have you asked for leave? How are Dun and Xiong at home? Be good. Not good. Did you drink milk powder on time? Please, his son was facing a life or death situation. How could he not ask for leave? Sister Tian and Aunt Yang have taken good care of Dun and Xiong. They are a little fatter than they were a few days ago. Xiaoun has taken leave recently and is at home every day, either with Xiaoun from sister-in-law Xiuying's house, taking care of Zibao and Fu Bao, or help Sister Tian and Aunt Yang share the housework. You can see clearly whether you are close or distant when you encounter difficulties. Lu Jiang continued, Comrade Fangning, Comrade Yang Fengying, and Comrade Bai Shui will go to our house to help whenever they are free, as will Comrade Du Xiaotao, Comrade Jin Zizhu, and others, as well as Comrade Wang Xinru. Feng Qingxiu hummed, with a smile on her lips. The happy atmosphere was instantly ruined by the sudden appearance of an old woman. She burst into the door, sat on the ground and cried bitterly. She pointed at Zhuang in Lu Jiang's arms and patted her thigh with her other hand, God has no eyes, God has no eyes. You have the same disease, just because they are at a higher level than my son, so you are fighting, you risk your life to save their child, but you don't care about my grandson. My grandson was born just yesterday, and he was pregnant in 10 months. How can you be so cruel? Her thighs slapped loudly and her voice was extremely high. When her small single-lidded eyes looked at Zhuang, their eyes were full of resentment. She didn't give the little nurse who was chasing her a chance to react, and continued to cry, my big sister grandson, my eldest grandson. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1198. The little nurse was very angry, what nonsense are you talking about? She was young, only in her 20s. Although she was not clumsy with her tongue, she was really not good at quarreling with others. She immediately gave the old woman a chance to speak, am I talking nonsense? Do you think I am talking nonsense? You go out to visit and ask questions. I asked, have I, Niu Jinhua, ever told a lie in my life? It's you who didn't treat my grandson well, and made me watch my grandson die. You spent all your energy on treating the children of the military commander's family. My grandson's death is your responsibility. Feng Qingxiu hurriedly took over her youngest son, and while patting her gently, she said to Lu Jiang, throw her out and listen to her talk nonsense. By the way, whose mother is this? Tell him to take her back. Zhuang has not recovered yet, and she is in a very bad mood now. If it weren't for the fact that she hadn't been able to eat well or sleep well recently, and she didn't have enough energy, she would have done it herself. This Niu Jinhua is not very discerning either. I don't know if she is too smart or too stupid. She knows that Li Luyang is of high rank but still dares to make trouble unreasonably. Aren't she afraid of causing trouble for her son? Lu Zhang lifted Niu Jinhua up and pushed him out without fear of any repercussions, followed him out, and closed the door behind his back. Niu Jinhua was in her 50s or 60s. She was small and thin, but Lu Zhang, who was tall and tall, carried her as if she were a chicken. The little nurse who came out with him almost couldn't help but laugh. I'm sorry, Comrade Army Commander, it was our fault that we failed to stop her." The little nurse was also very aggrieved. The child was not saved, and they were all very sad. Faced with this situation, even the most insensitive person would feel sad, but this was not the reason for Niu Jinhua to cause trouble. Among the adults and children sent to the hospital, no matter men, women, old or young, which one of them did not treat them attentively. However, they were powerless against the Lord of Hell. Dr. Zhang got the news and rushed over, furious. "Comrade Niu Jinhua, what are you doing?" Niu Jinhua sat down on the ground again and cried loudly, "We are all human beings, why should we be divided? My grandson has to live in a ward with several other people's children, but they can live in a separate room. Why? Why did you only save their son but put my grandson to death? He was the only one in our family. My son and daughter-in-law had been married for more than 10 years and they had a hard time giving birth to a son. So you put him to death like this? What are you asking me for? I want justice. Give me your grandson's life." As Niu Jinhua made a fuss, more and more people were watching, pointing, some shaking their heads, some nodding, with expressions of compassion and enlightenment on their faces. Everyone's expression was different. Wang Sanbao separated from the crowd and walked over. He frowned and said sternly, "This is a hospital. The adults and children are resting. It's not a stage. What kind of big show are you singing? If you want to sing, fine, call the few soldiers on duty outside. Take her to the high platform outside, let her cry and sing, and see who is embarrassed in the end." There is no justice. Niu Jinhua's voice was very long, and she kept repeating the sentence, as if what she said was the justice of heaven. "You will kill my grandson and you won't allow me to ask for justice. You won't let me cry, and you won't even say anything. Let me tell you, I will only try to please some military commander and risk my life to save their children, but not my grandson." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1199. Noticing the change in some people's eyes, Dr. Zhang suddenly became anxious. "Do you have any sense of justice in what you say? Who do you think won't save your grandson? How did your grandson get to the hospital? Don't you have any idea? The hospital is right here. You can't run away. Each division has a corresponding medical department, and there is also a department of gynecology, internal medicine, and pediatric surgery. You asked your daughter-in-law to give birth to the baby at home. The baby was choked in the womb and almost died from lack of oxygen. Didn't we save the lungs? Infection, didn't we try our best to save it? That's it. Do you mean what you say? Family members of the military come here to see a doctor, get medicine, and give birth to a baby for free. They are treated the same as soldiers. If you don't come to the hospital to give birth, you have to deliver the baby at home. Are you a doctor? Are you a midwife? Improper delivery caused the child to become ill, you are right? Don't we want to save the child? Who stayed up all night last night? It is our duty as doctors, and we will never differ in attitude based on our position. You said that the baby of the army chief lives in a separate ward. Yes, so what? Why is your son not as high in rank as the army chief? You should also go out and visit and ask if the hospital treatment for cotters and soldiers is the same. Same. If you use this matter to say that we are not good to you, where is your conscience? The little nurse didn't know where she got the courage to come forward, and she didn't know how she suddenly became smart. Her mouth was like a machine gun. You said we saved the army chief's baby but not your grandson. Where is the evidence? The baby of the army chief has been hospitalized a few days ago. After everyone's efforts, the baby is finally out of danger. We don't need to worry too much. You sent the children here yesterday. We will only care about them and not treat your grandson. Is that okay? Don't the people in the same ward as you know about medical treatment? A middle-aged woman immediately said, I can testify. All our children have bad lungs, and a lot of them have been infected this year. My son also has a lung infection, and he lives in the same house with them. Dr. Zhang and Dr. Wang Dr. Guo came and went a lot, even at night, when the baby of the army chief's family was in the worst condition. Her son is older, he is 9 years old this year, and he is easier to take medication. The anti-inflammatory drugs used by adults are reduced in dosage and given to him directly, so he is almost better. He can be discharged from the hospital tomorrow. It is really difficult to treat young babies. Neither light nor heavy. They all said privately that Zhuang survived thanks to his mother who was proficient in medical skills and took good care of him. The night Feng Qingxiu held the child, everyone in the adjacent ward knew that, some even suspected that Feng Qingxiu secretly treated her son, otherwise he would not have been able to survive so easily at such a young age and with such a weak constitution. Wang Sanbao said directly, what are you talking about with her? It's a waste of time. After hearing these words, Dr. Zhang gradually calmed down and said, Niu Jinhua, don't you want justice? Come on, let's go to the cotters in charge of this area of the army and argue about right and wrong. We all doctors and nurses work conscientiously and there is no need to bear such vicious and misleading accusations. Just when everyone thought Niu Jinhua was following him confidently, Niu Jinhua actually got up and ran away, slapping her butt, leaving behind a large group of stunned onlookers. What was the point of making this scene? Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1200. Lu Zhang didn't say a word, and the matter ended just like that. In the evening, Lu Zhang went to the cafeteria to get food. On the way to the hospital, Lu Zhang heard that something had happened to Niu Jinhua's daughter-in-law. The main reason is improper postpartum care. No, it should be no treatment at all. At that time, when she saw her grandson's face was bruised from holding back, Niu Jinhua rushed to take her grandson to the hospital. Later, the child's condition became critical. Niu Jinhua was so anxious that she completely forgot about her daughter-in-law who had just given birth. Guo Xiuying and Wang Sanbao only saw the child but not the mother. They remembered that Niu Jinhua's son Dong Kequan had not returned from a mission. The sisters were worried that something might happen to the mother alone at home, so they immediately sent 2 nurses to our home. Fortunately, they arrived in time. The mother's placenta has not been discharged cleanly, and there are already signs of bleeding. If no one comes there for a long time, the mother will definitely die. Niu Jinhua didn't see her daughter-in-law when she got home and yelled at the door. A neighbor told her the whereabouts of her daughter-in-law, so she went back to the hospital to look for her daughter-in-law in despair. Just like a farce, Niu Jinhua became a joke in the eyes of many people, which pitted the mother and the child. Half a month later, When the doctor announced that Zhuang could be discharged from the hospital, Feng Qingxiu and Lu Zhang left with Zhuang without looking back. They never wanted to come to the hospital again, never wanted to come again. When Zhuang could smile at everyone, Feng Qingxiu fell ill in the blink of an eye. Her vitality was severely depleted during the birth. Even after 2 months of confinement, her energy and blood were not replenished. She had been worrying about Zhuang. Now she has been suffering for more than 20 days because of the baby's anxiety and worries. How can she hold on? Live. But she didn't dare to fall down when Zhuang was seriously ill. She was afraid that if she fell, Zhuang would be in danger. Now that Zhuang is well, she can't resist the menacing illness. She is dizzy, weak, and short of breath. Lu Zhang was so distressed that he wanted to take sick leave on her behalf, so he took all the leave he could without delaying his mission. Feng Qingxiu grabbed his hand and looked at his with tired eyes. I want to apply for discharge. What? Although Feng Qingxiu had told Fang Ning about this, she had never mentioned it to Lu Zhang, so Lu Zhang was particularly surprised when she suddenly said this. You want to apply for discharge? Yes, I applied for discharge. I won't work anymore. Even if people say that I wasted the country's training, I will accept it. For me, work will never be as important as my children. I don't have most of the noble sentiments of selflessness. I only know that, when the child is sick, I am a mother and I should be responsible for giving birth to him. After experiencing Zhuang's illness, she has made a decision in her mind. I will continue to study medical skills while taking care of my children and never give up. If the country needs me, I will obey orders without hesitation when my children grow up. Lu Zhang nodded. Okay, he supported his wife's decision unconditionally. He could afford to support his wife and children, and it didn't matter to him whether his wife worked or not. Because he knew his wife's character, he didn't say a word about her work. Now that he is retiring from the army for the sake of his children, to be honest, Lu Zhang is particularly touched. Of course, they certainly cannot apply for military discharge on the grounds that their child is seriously ill. It must be said that Feng Qingxiu is seriously ill and needs long-term recovery, and will not be able to fulfill her current responsibilities in a short time. Feng Qingxiu has only been in the army for a short period of time, and the sick leave she can take is only a few months, but her illness requires long-term treatment.